Say Initiative, an ode to the past, a nod to the future, a collection of Arab dress and adornment, celebrating human narrative.
Hello, hello, and welcome everyone, friends of the Zay, creative advisors and guests. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you back to our penultimate webinar of this season, Dialogues on the Art of Arab Fashion, Alternative Museum of the Sudan. I think we've produced over 50 or 60 hours of webinar content over the last couple of years, which is pretty amazing, as it just was a little idea brought up in COVID. Anyway, today we'll be welcoming two renowned panelists. I will let Dr. Reem herself introduce them. But please do introduce yourself to us on the chat. It's lovely to see so many familiar names back with us and also lots of new names. If you have any questions, do just drop me an email or indeed speak to me on the chat. And if anyone would like to join the behind the scenes talk after this session, please again, just drop me a note and I'll help you get on there. All our sessions, as you know, are recorded and sent to registered participants within 24 hours of the event for viewing within the next couple of weeks. And our friends with the ZAY get those for life. Anyway, that's quite enough from me. Allow me to introduce you to the one and only Dr. Reem Al-Mutwalli. Dr. Reem.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much. And welcome to everyone. It's wonderful to see you. This is our, we have one more webinar until we break for the summer. And both of them are very exciting. I'm looking forward to both dialogues and thank you for joining us. Welcome to our world, a world in which we routinely converse with voices from the past and hope to address readers from the future, as we explore the story of dress and how to make sense of this combination of old and new. For the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time, we always like to start by explaining that our name emanates from the Arabic term Zay. Zay literally means the costume and general attire of certain country or era. And why Arabic? Because Zay is concerned with the legacy of the Arab world. The Zay initiative was founded to help promote an understanding of the evolution of regional culture across the Arab world through dress, to build public awareness and appreciation of this unique heritage and to create a platform for like-minded individuals and institutions, nationally, regionally, and globally. Simply put, and as you always hear me say, we at the Zay Initiative collect the tangible to narrate the intangible. We collect artifacts to help record the stories of those who use them or wore them. We are a UK registered non-for-profit that especially focuses on empowering women regionally and globally by bringing their untold stories to life. The initiative owns over 1,800 pieces of dress and adornment from across the Arab world and its surrounding areas. On our website, you will see over 200 key examples of these dresses by simply navigating the collection. We are working towards all the articles being added to the collection by publishing few articles at a time. That takes a lot of work and hardship, and we are a very small group, so do bear with us. Now, some of you might wonder, what do we mean when we mention the Arab world? An Arab is a cultural trait rather than a racial one. Not all Arabs are Muslims, nor all Muslims are Arabs. The Arab world is full of rich and diverse communities, ethnicities, religions, groups, and cultures, including Muslims, Christians, Jews, Yazidis, Kurds, Armenians, Amazigh, Berber, and many, many other minorities. Differences do exist not only among the countries, but within the countries as well. There are over 200 million Arabs worldwide. Generally, anyone who adopts the Arabic language is typically called an Arab. Having said this, today we have two wonderful guests. Najlaa is someone that you already know if you have been following our webinar series. We spoke to her many months ago on Libyan attire culture. And that was a fascinating webinar. Though for those who haven't catched it, you can go to the Patreon, as Emma suggested, and you can go through our list of older, earlier webinars. Najlaa, I'm going to have you start introducing yourself, and then I will carry on to Amado.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Reem, again for having me again. And this time, actually, it's for me to present the work of one of my lovely artists that I've been working with. And this time it's Amado AlFadni, a Sudanese artist based in Cairo. He's been living in Cairo most of his life. So he's a Cairene at heart. The exhibition is called the Alternative Museum of the Sudan, and it's been showing in London at the Sulgab Well for
We'll
about
get to that. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want you to
about
give
me. Okay,
about you.
I am an independent curator. I started my own small foundation called Noon Arts Project 10 years ago, shedding light on what's happening in terms of the contemporary artists. Mainly, I started with Libyan artists, but since 2014, I've been working with artists from all over North Africa and the Middle East. Yep. And
Thank you. Thank you.
This exhibition is my 20th exhibition that I've been curating.
Oh, that's amazing. And you're going to be working on a new one soon, which we will talk about before we end our session. Amado, welcome. I am so excited that we meet, even though it's virtually. Please give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Reem, and thank you, Najlaa. As Najlaa said, like I'm a Cairene artist, which that really put me who I am. Like I'm coming from Sudanese family. I'm second generation in Cairo. I've been working for like as a visual artist for like maybe 15, 20 years. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. So we come to the Alternative Museum of Sudan, and this is what our starting point of this dialogue today. And I thought maybe we could shed some light, Najlaa, if you can give us some basic information to the background of this. How did you think of the idea, and what is it all about?
Yeah, the Alternative Museum of the Sudan is the recent exhibition of the work by Amado for the last sort of 5-6 years. It is the repository of his sort of document research based art, looking into the forgotten history of the Askari soldiers of the Sudan. And so we called it the Alternative Museum of the Sudan because it provides sort of a different view of what you might know of some of these sort of forgotten stories and skewed parts of history that we are not aware of. And Amado highlights this sort of the story mainly of the Askaris or Bint al-Sudan, or the postcards and the photographs of some of these forgotten soldiers who were enslaved mainly first and who fought in the colonial wars, you know, the Second World War and I think before that as well.
So it's an exhibition that is held now in London. It's been there since April, correct?
Yeah. And so
it will continue
until end of June. We might extend it to July, so we will know. But it's still on show in London at the Sulgab Well Gallery in Southwark in London.
Yes, I visited it and I saw it, and it's beautiful. And it is divided into a number of sections. And today in our talk, we're going to touch upon each section that composes this exhibition. And in some areas, it intersects with our work as and that's what got me so interested in the whole project and got us involved to collaborate together. And we will end up with a collaborative work that we have done together with the Zay, with Amado and you and the Zay. So just to give a brief to the audience so that they can navigate the whole idea with us. So I come to you, Amado. Tell us, what are these alternative narratives? What do you mean by alternative narratives?
Well, alternative narrative is like my vision of history, as like I was born and raised in Cairo and going to like an Egyptian public school and being learned about the Black image, especially the Sudanese image in the history classes or in the media, is definitely from the way that I perceive from my family, because I'm coming from a really conservative, small Sudanese family. So everything has to be Sudanese, the music, the food, the culture. So I was trying to find a way to just retelling the image of myself to the others.
These are your parents?
These are my parents.
Yes.
That's the photo of the passport, like when I guess when my mother moved to Cairo.
And you are a Sudanese. You're born in Sudan, correct?
No, I was born in Cairo.
You were born in Cairo. So you were born in Cairo from Sudanese parents.
Yeah.
And you've lived all your life in Cairo.
Yeah, I lived all my life in Cairo.
Was there a tension? There was tension, or were you part of the site in Cairo?
It was a family, because my family like actually moved into Cairo. Like my father moved to Cairo like in 1951. So he moved earlier, like and then so the family business was here, everything is here. So I was connected with my small family. So it was how it worked. And then I was raised in Cairo downtown, which was give me like a chance to meet like a lot of different people, because Cairo is really like cosmopolitan city, or used to be more cosmopolitan than right now in the 80s. So I had the chance to like meet people from Sudan, also from elsewhere, and then try to, find an identity from there.
And what do you find yourself? Cairene person, and a Sudanese person, an African person? How do you identify yourself?
I'm like a nomad, like I don't think I have a land, but I have an identity. Like I could be Cairene, Sudanese, Egyptian, African, Arab, and that's also was part of the struggle I had as Sudanese, because as we are in Sudan, we have this identity crisis until today. So it's made me like, when I was younger, I was more like being like more African, like being like my, my Black identity, just try to keep it. But like, I guess growing up in the city and being, like part of it, it just have to be in me, be like familiar to both culture or both identity, and be part of them both.
I think also for Amado, the Sudan itself, the whole landscape of Sudan is a fascinating sort of landscape, because it's there. It really links, North Africa, and then the Arab world and Africa. There's so many
interwoven
interlays, and sort of things are going on. And I think the Sudanese identity conjures that up, because you cannot say a Sudanese is really an Arab, or what I'm saying. It's quite multi faceted, this kind of identity.
But don't you find that in many of the Arab countries?
Yes, I find it in myself as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I think, and I think even more so in North Africa, with the recent sort of the last 10 years and what's happened. A lot of people are becoming aware of the African heritage, really, or their Amazighi heritage, or their Nubian heritage, besides the Arab and the sort of Islamic heritage that is always been there. But now a lot of people are questioning all these other links that we have. And I think the African heritage is quite a strong one that we're all sort of looking at and sort of opening up. And I think Amado, also because of his family and his family history, has got a lot of sort of, I don't know, he had the opportunity to dig in more and to ask the question, as an artist as well,
I think we also have one more added layer with you and I, who lived abroad, away from our own countries.
Yeah.
It's another added layer, because again, what do you identify? This is a crisis that we all have, and we are all sort of one way or the other trying to work with it, which brings us to the topic, which I'm fascinated by this. When I met with you and Amado, and I met the exhibition of Amado and the work of Amado, it opened my eyes to a lot of issues, and among them, Black ivory. What do you mean by Black ivory? Can you tell us background information as to what we're looking at, Amado?
Yeah, Black ivory, it was my second archival research. I started as a painter for like 15 years or 10 years, and then like I started to move to like interactive art, and then archival art. So my second work was the Black ivory, which actually refers to the enslaved soldiers, because Black ivory was a code used by the British Army in Egypt, like when they were talking about like recruiting like Sudanese. That's what we call them the Black ivory, which is like just like a name for the slave that they were taking. And so I
just to clarify, it is a name given by the British to the.
It was a code, yeah. It was a kind of code that you're using that to like when they're using the 70 grams to Khartoum, like asking for the goods or merchandise, whatever coming to Egypt. So they were referring to the slaves as black ivory, because couldn't say that like we need more slaves. So we're just saying that we need black ivory. So it means how many black ivory that they got. So that's what like the code for the enslaved soldiers, which was a different narrative from what the British said when they came to like colonize Sudan to end up slavery, but they were starting a different type of slavery on the same time. So
it's a code name for slaves taken from
Sudan. Snatched from Sudan, and sent to Egypt.
And
through
Egypt,
Egypt,
sold to the British.
Yeah, because that's used to be custom, because that's how it started with the black ivory. Because this was they called like the Egyptian Sudanese troop in Mexico. So story was like 500 enslaved soldiers were taken from Sudan, and then they were trained in Egypt, and then they were sent to Mexico in 1864 to fight as a part of the French army. So they were used as a gift to the French Empire, and from that time, the Egyptian army started to use that to like getting soldiers and train them, and then sell them to the other colonial armies. So maybe the black ivory is one of the first. So I was doing the research, and I found a fascinating book by Amir Omar Tosun. He was like an Egyptian prince, and he was also in the army. And his book, like he has all these telegrams, all this stuff from the army, all these documents about the troops in Mexico. And from that, I was find this narrative and his way of detailing the story. But through that, I was trying to find a different way of telling the story. So I was going to the names of the soldiers in that troop, and then trying to find somebody if he could just put his own testimony, like if he said something about it, if he can have his own point of view. And I found one was Ali Jifun. And in this sketch that you're looking at, I mean, there's like two different like writing, the one in white and the other one like in off-white color, in creamy color. And the first one, actually, it's from an interview with one of the soldiers, Ali Jifun, that he had was like in the war magazine in 1902. And then he was talking about like how he was serving in the army. By the way, that the same person who was fighting for the French, and then he was fighting the British and the Egyptian armies. So he was fighting three colonial armies.
So you based your artwork on what this person has written, what you found that this person has written, and you were inspired by what he has written. Was he writing in Arabic or in English?
No, he did. Actually, it was an interview with him.
Okay.
And from the interview, like I found what he was the way he was telling his history. At the same time that at the Omar Tosun book, he was talking about the same guy as Ali Jifun, and who was referring to him like as an Egyptian officer who was in Mexico. And then he was telling what he had done. But like from Ali, his own story, he was saying how he was captured as a slave from a Shilluk tribe in Sudan, and then he was sold to Egypt. So they're the same person, and they're two different stories.
Two different accounts,
two different narrative about it.
Two different accounts. That's why, I mean, this is the beauty of this project. In this project, also Amado, he uses a recorded voice in the Shilluk language, and it's like it's a recount of the story of this.
Explain what is Shilluk language, please, to the audience.
Shilluk language is a language that is spoken by one of these sort of slaves.
Tribes in Sudan, yeah.
The tribe. It's a tribe. Where is it? Which
it's in South Sudan, yeah, because when I did the research about Ali Jifun, I had this, and also like I want to write the story how he was captured and telling the story from his perspective. So in the installation in Cairo, I did like 5 ivories, like black ones, and you go through the installation through the ivory, and then you can hear the story of Ali Jifun. So I wrote it based on his story, and also about the other information that of the research I was doing. But at some point, he was talking also about like, you know, how he was captured, and he was talking about like hyenas and other forms and things, different things. So I showed them the story. And so in the end, I want to like to present it as an audio piece, but I had a problem like which language to use, because if I use English or Arabic, the both are colonial for him, so it's not his own language. So the Cholik is like it's a dialect. It's from South Sudan. So I tried to find like the Cholik community in Egypt, and then try to communicate with them, you know, just to tell them the story, and then they do it like in an oral, like in the Cholik language. And then I use the audio for the narrative of the story.
And just to clarify to the audience, the the story included some sort of a fable, because the children in Sudan, or the idea was, or I don't know if this is a fact or not, or if this is part of the Sudanese heritage, you can correct me, but as I understood it, they were told, don't go and play outside, because if you go and play outside, there's this animal, the hyena is going to
the
come.
The hyenas will come. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what
away.
Yeah, because of the way
actually the hyena is the people who captured the slaves, correct?
Actually, yeah, because we have this incident over Sudan, all the tribes, like in my tribe, like human take like cat forms, and other tribes they take different forms. But with the Sherlock, they always say that like because the Jalaba, the Arab tribes who come to the south during the raining season, they come and they capture some slaves and just take them back to the north.
And this particular slave, he hid under the ground, which is what they always do. They hide.
That's what they do. Like when I talked to the children community, they told me like actually they used to like dig holes and hide the children there, because they knew that the Arab tribes would come and just try to like take the children, because actually they're looking for children between like 9 and 15. Yes. So what they do like is just take them to the to the jungle and then hide them there. And so that's how I built the narrative of the story, because it actually telling the children that they are the trader. They come in the evening at the form of hyenas, you know. So you have to be aware of the hyena that you hear in the evening.
Yeah. And then once they are captured, they are taken and they are tied in this format so that they would be, you know, moved and transported from one area to the other.
Yeah, these take them
story. This little child starts visualize or starts living this story that he was told, the fable that
exactly.
He was told, by being captured and being sold.
Exactly.
And this takes us to the Askari project that you worked on, and this is what inspired the Askari project. So in this slide, we are looking at an artwork by yourself, which is that striking color of fuchsia, and the image itself is from an old postcard, correct? So you have
exactly, from like a Sudanese child soldier.
And this is one of the artworks that is on sale in the exhibition that you have, correct?
Yeah, it's exhibited in London. Yes.
Okay, so what is it that you're trying to say through this? Why put it on such a color? What are you trying to say? What is the dialogue that's taking place there?
Well, the Askari is like, so when I started as Black Ivory, I started to have this archive of the images of Sudanese soldiers. And then like I tried to like represent the images again, because in this photo you found them like mostly in the background, you know, like part of a bigger picture, you know. So I tried to just like focus on them. So I representing the image. I using to like I started the project with like the old Nubian royal colors, which are the same like Egyptian royal colors, and more like a pastel. And then and I think like this bright colors comes also from like my identity as an African, you know. So I guess altogether like summing, like I'm trying to present like a Sudanese, or try to form like a Sudanese identity from the color of the images.
And on the left, we have Kharit Sudan, or the map of Sudan. Can you explain it to us? Maybe you or Najlaa would like to. What's the significance?
The map, okay, so the map, it's connected also because when I was working about, like, my work was about Sudan as the political state of Sudan. But when I was in Morocco, I was doing research also about slavery in Morocco. And in the south, like I heard like a Ganawa group, and then they were talking the song, they were saying Sudan, and then I asked, I had to translate it and try to ask him, what does this part of Sudan means in the song? Because the Ganawa, this like the slave music actually from Morocco, and they were talking about Sudan as a hometown, so they're always going to Sudan. They always are saying like, okay, we're gonna go back to Sudan. So I found Sudan in Morocco with the Black community there is more like an identity, So the research here, I'm trying, and then when I tried to read the map of Sudan, so I was like, like in Khaldun and what's actually the borders of Sudan, So Sudan, it was actually from the Red Sea to the coast, to the ocean. So it was called Sudan, and then it was divided to like the West Sudan and North, like, and the Eastern Sudan. So I was here talking about Sudan more as a concept, as an identity, for the or the lost identity that we are not really having maybe in the North.
So when you say the Sudan al-Inglisi or al-Masri, and then the Egyptian or Egyptian, the English Sudan, and then the Middle Sudan, and then the Sudan, the French Sudan, who gave these terms to this map? I mean, is it something that you've done, or?
Actually, I tried to get the map, like the maybe this one of the first colonial maps of Africa, and then like even how the whole Africa was divided. So like the British and the French just divided the region of Sudan as two parts of the French and Central and English Egyptian, and that's like the first maybe like modern or like the first colonial like map of the region of Sudan.
So the whole African continent was called Sudan?
No, just a part until like the South Sudan, or until like Kenya. I guess it was called Sudan, and for the South of Sudan they have a different name. So actually Sudan wasn't only like the whole Africa, it was only that region of Africa.
Central
like only sub-Saharan, yeah, just central part of Africa.
And we come here to the work, which I think is gorgeous. It's beautiful. Again, I have to ask you, what are you trying to say through this? What is it? What is the message that you are trying to bring across?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go, please.
Well, I mean, for me, I've been working with Amado for the last sort of 6-7 months. As you said, the Askari sort of series, since he started it in 2019, and which sort of went way before 2016 when he was looking at Black Ivory. And what Amado has produced, he utilized some of the postcards and some of the original photographs, and he used the poses again to create his own kind of choreography, and to give life and to highlight the plight of these people, and to highlight their existence, really, that sort of just brushed off, or we just look at them as unknown soldiers. So I think his use of color, his use of different motifs, and how they look at you, especially the ones at the bottom here, which were, I think Amado did this in 2021, last year. Go ahead. And he used the models to sort of,
they are women in the bottom.
They're women, yeah.
Yeah, they were.
And he created the costumes as well, the uniforms, based on what these soldiers were when they fought for certain wars, for the colonial wars.
I can't help but see, I mean, to me, they are very, how can I say, vibrant images. They are beautiful, they are exciting, they are happy.
Yeah, well, what
Amado is not. So how do you reconcile these two issues?
Yeah, Amado, you answer.
I answer this one.
How do you reconcile like sort of the darkness of what
because I mean, even like okay, so visuality is really important, and even if it's like a dark issue, you can bring this beauty, like you can bring the other part of it, so if the person like Najlaa just referred, like they were not really into the picture, there are a lot of pain there, but like if I just give every character like his space, and then you can tell even from the images, they're strong, they're looking at the camera, so like the suggestion is really strong. And there's a confidence, in the images, So even from the original photos on the top, you can see like they're not just taking photo of them, just looking at the camera, the way they're looking at the camera, the way they thinking of themselves, that they're really strong and super powerful, So actually the images are really powerful. So I'm just trying to I think that I was trying to reveal it mostly.
I think what Amado's also tried to do is to really frame the soldiers as unknown martyrs, in the sense of what their plight has been through. Also, another, question, I just saw the chat and I've asked Amado this, but I think he should answer it. Why did he choose female models to reappropriate the uniforms into, and how he designed the uniforms for these models, for the female shape instead of the male shape?
Because a couple of reasons. One of them, women were part of these campaigns. Even from the research I've read, there are a lot of women being served in the army, for reproducing new soldiers, and also working with the army. So I didn't find much images. I only find 2 images of women. So it was part of it, just representing, maybe as a Sudanese as well, our identity is only connected with the female, we have the Kindaka, we have the image of female image, which is really heroic thing. So
maybe
so I guess
the matriarchal society kind of that in the Nubia and the tribal society. So I guess Amado is trying to highlight it back.
Exactly.
And to me, this is a wonderful slide. Sorry, this is a wonderful slide that takes you, although these are artworks, and again, they are available for sale, and they can, if anybody's interested, they connect to Najlaa and she can arrange all of this for them. But to me, this is how I cross from the art world or realm into the textile, because in the bottom part where you've created the textiles themselves, and you have superimposed them on women, and you've created these images. So although the top part are old postcards that you have rendered in color, the ones at the
that's
bottom,
from 2019.
You've created them. And
exactly.
It was an important question that I wanted to ask. What is the relationship of the fabric? Why did you choose to create fabric? Because there is a story behind the African fabrics. And I thought maybe you can highlight this to us here.
So the first collection, the one that were top, actually from 2019 and 2000, last couple of years, I was trying to work on redesigning the costume, So I took them based on the Sudanese from 4 different colonial armies that the Sudanese or Askaris were serving, the British, the German, the Egyptian, the Turks.
One second. You mean these outfits? They represent.
This outfit actually, they're presenting different colonial armies. So actually, they're based on real uniforms, and from that uniform that I redesigned it, and then I was using the Dutch wax, which the African fabric with a lot of colors and photos.
Can you clarify this, because not everybody knows the Dutch wax?
So the Dutch wax is the West African style, where we have all these colors. Actually, it came from Netherlands, and actually it's a colonial thing.
Can I say something? I found out actually the Dutch brought the whole way of printing from Indonesia.
Exactly. Actually, the Dutch actually they took it from Indonesia.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a village in Indonesia called Little Ghana, because a lot of African soldiers that were fighting in Indonesia and Asia, they went back to Africa and then start textile and the batik. That's how it started.
Batik, yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And also the Dutch wax. Actually, the Dutch started to manufacturing making mass production of these fabrics for the Indonesian, but they lost the colonies there. So what they do, they were presenting it to Africa. So they tried to send it to Africa, And I guess in 2018, I was at the African Museum in Belgium. So I went to the textile, and then I saw all this like, really old colonial like textile, coming, say was sent to Congo. And it has all this like slogans, like how colonialism is
Yeah.
right, a symbol, and
I mean,
all this text, so I was finding like it's kind of like there was a way of propaganda that actually false propaganda that they were using it.
yes. And
Yes.
actually, interestingly, women in West Africa, they used it to tell it's like it was like a language to tell of their plight, or some of I mean a lot of the prints or the symbols or the motifs that were created mainly were by women, and they were talking about their like social life or what was happening, and also they took on into and they were used also as political kind of
Actually, in Sudan, in Tob, like actually it's really political because every year we have a fashion and it has a political name, up to like a president or a coup or whatever happened. So you call that like a numeri, you call this fashion this year is called like whatever. So it also has these political messages, And also right now in West Africa, they're using this image as well, like, using these political things, political photos, like they had with Obama. Yeah.
What you've done is you've taken the history of the Dutch fabrics and how they were created and the idea behind it and how it was massively used in the area, in the region. And we've seen that because we've done a webinar on this with Alia Yunus, who spoke about it went all the way to Yemen even, these fabrics, because they were imported then from Africa to Yemen. And they carried messages with them. They carried all kinds of different messages. So you used that as an inspiration and you created a number of fabrics using the subject matter of the Sudanese slaves and the Sudanese slave trade. And imposed it onto uniforms that are actual uniform styles and cutouts from tradition, different armies that were put on these Sudanese soldiers.
Exactly, yeah.
But because you have them in color, because you are producing your own print.
And of course, there's different fitting, styling of the clothes itself with the colors. It makes it, give it like a different like a military gray uniform.
Yes, I'm just trying to sort of narrate what is going on for the so people can understand the.
I'll try to wrap it up for you. I mean, I think what Amado has done by creating his own Dutch prints and using them as a medium to relay his ideas, really. And so he revives the long forgotten voices through this kind of ciphered patterns that he has created, revealing the never-ending exploitation of the Sudanese people from the earliest times up until now, because these different kind of fabrics, these textiles that we actually exhibited in London as big pieces. So each one, and then if you look at the motif,
we're looking at them here.
I mean, like,
motifs for us. Maybe you can explain these motifs.
Amado can explain.
Oh yeah, with the blue one, like you can see at the top, like there's a photo of this of some of the surgeons they were fighting in Mexico. So it's actually a photo from them. So what I'm doing here, like I'm using two different kind of images. The colonial one, which you can find with like Kitchener or Queen Victoria. That's they being glitch, and then the one with enslaved Sudanese soldiers in the top is more like has more like this kind of iconic presentation with the slogans. Villa Cruz, actually, there's a city that the Sudanese were fighting in Mexico, and then there was in the bottom it says like Amado AlFadni, which was like a slave company in Sudan in the 19th century. So I'm trying to use this kind of motifs. In the background, also I always use like a Turkish symbols or slogans for the Sudanese soldiers as well.
And what's happening with Putin and the last one in the fight?
So actually, because I was moving with it, like presenting different colonial version of Sudan, like from the British and the Anglo-Egyptian. And then just like the modern one, because this is like two years ago. But it was like to talk about the new colonial power in Sudan now, like it's like Russian and Chinese. It's like different forms because it's more with the economy and more with like, with the army. So it's a different colonial thing, but it's the same thing. So that's it. But it's still going on. So it's not like finished thing.
Yes, and here are more images of the women wearing these outfits, which were originally worn by men, actually, and this was part of the exhibition, right?
Yes, we had actually we did something different for the launch for the exhibition in London. So we worked with Creative Resistance, which is a foundation that works with promoting African fashion and African sort of culture. And so we had these 4 models who came and created a performance wearing Amado's uniforms. And they did a fantastic performance also inside the gallery. So these photos were taken outside afterwards. They did a brilliant performance based on Amado's choreographed postcards that he recreated, where he reappropriated the sort of the story of the Askari into contemporary kind of image. So these are the photos of the actual models who did the work.
And this is more details.
Details.
Of all
This more detailed, yeah.
Yeah, details of the sort of prints.
And then the next part of the exhibition, and I thought this was another fascinating subject, and I loved the whole concept behind it. It's the Bint Sudan. So again, can you give us an idea for those who don't know what is Bint Sudan?
Okay, Bint Sudan is like is a Sudanese perfume, or actually it's a British perfume. Was created in 1920, but it has a personal story because this is part of my mother's collection, so something of reminds me of Sudan. And it has this very beautiful photo on the label of this topless like Sudanese girl. And what happened, like, and the story is fascinating because how it started, because actually the founder or the guy who created, actually he was in Sudan 1919, and then he was asked by Sudanese like tribe people to make a perfume for like a Sudanese perfume, and then they gave him like different incense, and he made the formula. So actually it came from Sudan.
So just to clarify, we have somebody in 1919.
Yeah. Okay.
Who was entrusted to do a perfume that represents the Sudanese culture. And he went to England and he created this perfume, correct?
Perfume, yeah. And he was a British guy.
In Hackney, London, in a factory.
In Hackney, London, okay.
Yeah.
And then to create the bottle for that perfume, the first image that was on that bottle was the Sudanese princess, she's dressed in the Sudanese format, the African format, which we see on the left-hand side, correct?
Yeah, actually, this is actually for my home, like this is what the Nubians used to wear, like in 1920, like the Nubians. That's how actually this is Nubian costume.
Yes.
So that's how we used to dress.
And we still see it actually. When I saw your image, and I have a very close friend of mine from Sudan whose daughter was getting married a few years ago. And I inquired, why was one of her dresses in red with all that gold? Of course,
that's a traditional one.
And nobody knew why. But when I saw your image here and I saw this Nubian princess and what she was wearing, now I understand how it is carried through the Sudanese culture. And even many of the Sudanese don't know that.
Yeah, we're still doing that, but we don't know why. Yeah, exactly. Because something that we lost.
And what's fascinating here is we've got 4 labels for the same perfume.
Exactly, and that's changing.
Continues to be produced. Sorry, this perfume continues to be produced to date, right?
In Kano, yeah.
Yeah, in Nigeria. Yeah.
Nigeria. And it still is very much sought after by the Sudanese communities all over the world.
Not only Sudanese, it's the #1 perfume in Africa. It's not Sudanese only.
Actually, it's real African perfume.
And also in the Gulf region, it's still being sold. I guess it passed to the Gulf region through the pilgrimage. So it's
actually, like somebody from Iraq, like she was telling me, like it reminds her of her childhood in Baghdad. because she was telling me, yeah, she's like in Baghdad, she used to go with her mother to the local market to buy henna. And then Bint Sudan was there, was like with the henna, with the collection. So she's like, actually reminds her of that.
And what we see here, we see different labels. Why do we see different labels? Can you
Exactly.
explain?
I mean, yeah, because so we have this label, like the first one, and the second one actually is the Kenyan version.
On the left-hand side, the first
from the left-hand side, yeah. And the second one from the left, actually, there's more the original one. And then when when the former regime came to power in Sudan and tried to like Arabtize everything, you know, so and of course they were like they were Islamists, you know, so you had to cover the girl. So I don't mind covering it, but they just made it like a pale white woman, you know, and the third image, you know. So it's just not like they didn't just cover the girl, you just make it like just white, you know, just like
they whitened her skin.
Terrible. And actually, this is a problem because this used to be in the propaganda in Sudan for like 30 years. And that's why Sudan is one of the highest country who has with skin cancer, because all the women using like this whitening creams, you know,
creams.
Whitener creams actually illegally, you know, and 70% of the women using that in Sudan, because now after 30 years of the propaganda, you know, like, I mean, there are certain like tone color, they're allowed to be on TV, you know, like on the media, you know, so if you're not lighter, you're not pretty. Yeah, exactly. Or forcing one like lighter color, one identity. And actually, I have the idea for this, for like I had an idea of the installation in my head for why. And then when I used the same label of Bint Sudan, the last image on the right was Ala, because she became like more like an icon of the revolution. So it was a contribution to the Sudanese revolution to put her on the Bint Sudan. So I found out like now I guess the set is completed, you know, from what is the original one to.
So it's like an evolution of the female.
Evolution, yeah, exactly.
But just to clarify, these labels are your design or they are the original designs?
The original designs.
These are all the original designs. So you've got
I redesigned. Yeah, I redesigned the original. Yeah, I redesigned the original
version of it when it is more Islamicized and more whitened, and then when it goes to Saudi Arabia, she becomes completely covered.
And
no, actually, no. Actually, she's completely covered. That's when you come to Islamists. That's what actually in Sudan. Like this covered white thing is actually like this drawing thing actually should be Sudanese.
And the last image or last label where you have the Kindaka, this is a symbol of Sudan. Is this also original or is this something you created?
He made it.
No, I created. I created because because also like 80% of the people in the street in Sudan, they were women, because women be under Russia for like 30 years, you know. So like actually the revolution was like based by women like asking for the rights back, you know. That's why I call it Kindaka's revolution. So yeah, that's like I felt like that is like changing it,
to show it, because you're talking about Kindakas, so I thought maybe we would move to this, because this is another part of the exhibition where you're focusing on these women and the role that they played within society in Sudan, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just presenting like old images of Sudan, like mostly from Egypt. I guess most of them are from Egypt, and they found in the books like an image of the Nubian woman, of Sudanese woman, and try to actually bring it back to life or to represent it.
And again, this is part of the exhibition. So we come to another section of the exhibition where you are portraying the images of these Sudanese women, right?
The Kindakas is separate. Azef space is different. Azef space is different.
I just wanted us to explain the Kindakas for the audience. Let's start with the word itself. What does Kindakas stand for?
Kindaka is like it means like a queen in ancient Nubian of the Kush kingdom, and we have Kindaka Manu, and we have 5 Kindakas, like 5 queens. Actually, they built like the Nubian dynasty. So Kindaka is and actually she one who freed Sudan from the ancient Egypt. So she is like the Kindaka is important in
leadership.
Yeah.
And just so that people will know and understand what we were talking about. And then we take it to another part of the exhibit, which is Ace of Spades, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what are you trying to say here?
Ace of Spades was before the Askari project, and it was when he actually started looking at the photographs of the Askari soldiers. And here Amado, yeah, so it was before the Askari, and this project he worked in each individual kind of photograph or postcard, and where most of these soldiers weren't given any names. They had no names, they were given numbers. So Amado created the series and he called it the Ace of Spades, where each one had a number, and Amado called it an unlucky, like unlucky number 238 that was given to each individual to highlight that they existed. And also what he did, he superimposed sometimes text from freedom tickets that were given to Sudanese slaves in Egypt, that were given to Sudanese slaves in Egypt. And so he superimposed these kind of Tazakir al-Hurriya or freedom tickets on the images. And sometimes you have the stamps as well, that where sort of official letters were stamped in relation to these soldiers. So again, I think this was where Amado first attempted to highlight the actual plight of these of soldiers, and to give them some kind of platform to be, put back into our contemporary kind of life, really, and to know who they are.
This is so fascinating, really. It's very interesting. And just before we start this topic, and I just wanted to ask, when you say Tadakir al-Hurriya or freedom tickets, were these men given their freedom?
Yeah.
After slavery? After
emancipated, yeah, emancipated from slavery.
Okay.
So they were how much were they sold? Were they given these ticket?
There's given ticket actually, like to guarantee that it's more like an ID also, like it says like the name or who used to belong to, and now this person is free, so it cannot be taken as a slave. So
like a document, yeah.
It's a document, yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite a powerful piece of document. It's quite sensitive. It's quite painful actually to think about it, that these tickets were given to actual humans.
Yes.
And these were done in Egypt, yeah? These were
this was Egyptian, yeah.
And again, and Amado's also, because he's in Egypt, he's also trying to highlight that slavery did exist in our part of the world, where, slave routes, it went all through North Africa. I come from Libya, and the slave heritage is there, yet people are still in big denial about it. And I guess through Amado's art, he is actually also highlighting this kind of existence of slavery in our world. Besides the Western, the Western colonial kind of past, there's the Ottoman colonial past, there's the Arab colonial past, and slaves were part of it. And so I think with Amado and how he highlighted it in his projects, also to bring attention to us, the audience in North Africa and in the Arab world as well, about the existence of slavery and its ugly chapter that we really need to sort face up. And also highlights also how we look at skin in our countries, and how we still have, that racism does still exist.
Definitely.
Especially in popular culture.
From within and from outside.
Yes,
both.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's his Ace of Spades, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I know that Amado's grandfather was involved in this. Maybe how do you I have to bring it up.
Yeah, you have to, because I think that's why he actually, it made Amado what Amado is, and it pushed Amado to create
let's tell the audience what we're talking about. Amado.
Okay, so because my connection in Sudan actually comes from my mother's stories, so like I've heard like a lot about my family, and then my family being really involved in slavery. And actually story goes like my grandfather, like my great-grandfather, like Rahma Basha, Zubir Rahma, That's from mother's side. And then how her father, like he decided not to work in slavery, and then he started to be farmer. But she was telling me about her uncles and her grandfather. They used to go to the south during the raising season and coming back with slaves. Actually, the same people who took Ali Jifun in the story of Black Ivory. So actually, it's somehow personal. And I was telling
So
Najlaa before.
your paternal grandfather was a slave merchant.
Yeah, which is like a lot of Northern Sudanese are doing that. So
Sorry, your maternal grandfather was a slave merchant, not paternal, maternal. Yeah. And then you decide, you come here and you discover this about it, and that gets you to.
I found out a long time ago because I couldn't accept that, like, but I was denying it, I was trying not to deal with it. But I think part was probably that's why I was driven into slavery, like Najlaa says. Maybe that's why I was into it, because I found out like maybe this is topic, the history I need to talk about, because there's slavery here in the North Africa, and like Najlaa saying, like I'm talking also about slavery, like African slavery, not like Western or African slavery. And in the Middle East, with the Arab or North Africa, the big history of slavery, and we have to talk about it, like, because if you don't talk about it, you're not gonna solve the problem. So we have to actually telling that it exists, and that's what I was finding with the audience here. Like, when I have an exhibition, I talk to the audience in Cairo. You say, "Oh, we don't have slavery. We never had slavery in Egypt." I was like, "Well, it's a long history. You can read about it until like 50 years ago, so it's not that far away." So we have to acknowledge that.
And this brings us to our project that we worked on, and we created a small video which I would like to show in a minute, and then we can discuss the topic and talk more about it. So I'll just show this video just to illustrate what we did together. This is a piece of fabric that Amado designed for us to create a imma or a amama, depending on where you are in the Arab world. And what we did is we dressed it into one of the mannequins, and we happen to have in our collection, at the Zay collection, a jubba, a Mahdi jubba, which was worn, or a creation of a Mahdi jubba that was created for Sir Lawrence Olivier, which you see in the image on the side, for the movie Al-Khartoum, which was done in 1966. And we happen to have it in our collection. And what I thought is to combine, to superimpose what Amado does and connect it to the Zay collection and what we've got, and to have it as part of the collection for people to learn from and introduce Amado to them, to our audience, and to record Amado's experience through the Zay collection. And I was very excited about this, and thank you very much for producing this for us. I was wondering if you can start first by explaining the symbols that you decided to put on this emma.
No, thank you, and thank you, Najlaa, for letting me do that, because that movie was really back. Like we saw the movie like a while ago in Sudan. Like everybody knows about it. A lot of people know about it, and of course we have a big history. I mean, we have a lot of issues with the film, like how it was represented, So
Yes.
when Najlaa told me about it, like the initiative, I was really said, okay, maybe at this time I can have, because it just representing, like you said, like Lawrence Oliver, like he just printing his face black, and he have this funny accent, like like a Disney character, like a devil, like a bad Disney character, So I was trying to present like what actually the who is the Mahdi, and the Mahdi, like, so they can find, like, I also like looking at the colonial images of the Mahdi. So there are two images of the Mahdis, like that I used for the print. Also, like, there's a map of the Mahdi state, which actually was bigger than Sudan today. Because it was like it took part of Ethiopia and in Egypt and like Kenya. So it was like it was a big state, And so it was a guy who was like, well, he was building a small empire actually, and he was trying to extend, to take it to the whole Africa. So he had his own vision, and then from the movie that you find like a different character about the Mahdi, you know, like how he just like into like somebody with issues, you know, and that tried to like kill as much as people as he could for no reason. But
Yeah, they turned him into a villain.
yeah, it's just a villain, and actually, because from my point of view, like, you know, like a Mahdi is a good guy, and Jordan is a villain because he came and he killed us, you know, as a colonial, you know, he came with his army and he killed the Sudanese. But seeing it from the other perspective is totally different story, you know, and then you feel like how you see me, you know, and how am I seeing myself, because the way that I saw the Sudanese character, which even by the way, the whole movie was shot in Egypt, and all the actors that who pretend to be Sudanese actually they're Egyptian, but they not even bother to go to Sudan and take the scene. They just went as a small village just to see like something like, you know, like simple, and then like start to build the movie there.
Well, I thank you so much for adding this to our collection. We will treasure it, and it will always be there. I know we're going to be interviewing you for a blog, and Ansi, the manager of our blogs, will be connecting with you soon in order to do an interview and put it in and document the whole thing into our blogs. And people can look at more details about the imagery of the turban or amama. And they can also, on the website, if they go to the collection and search Sudan, they will see it, they will see the video, they will see the background, and they can also connect through that site and through that section to your exhibition and to who you are and your catalog, and all the details that they might need in order to get to know you more or to read more about it and understand the whole situation more. Thank you so much for doing this and for presenting this to us. I think Emma is going to jump in now because we've ran over time, but I thought it was so fascinating and it's so wonderful to be able to talk. And I can see in the chat, there are so many different questions, I think, and dialogues taking place. I dare not press on it. I'm technically very bad and I didn't want to destroy the images that we're seeing here. I was afraid I would push a button, the wrong button.
Oh, don't worry at all. That really was absolutely fascinating. I think has really helped us all understand like lots of the terms more in the chat, particularly. I don't know whether Najlaa, you want to jump in, but particularly lots of conversations about the term Black Ivory and how, you know, how people sort of what they can take away from it, etc. Just on the Black Ivory topic, when was the interview done, Amado?
Yeah, the interview was done in 1902 with the British surgeon in the War magazine, and I found the translation from a Sudanese journalist.
Fantastic. And is it possible to buy any of the fabrics?
Yes, yeah, from the gallery. Yeah, I've put in the link to the gallery, or you can give them my email.
Fantastic.
They are, yeah.
Fantastic. And can you buy them online? Because there are many of our audience who are around the world through that link online.
Yeah.
Or not something you've done before.
We'll have to see. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see, you know, they are in London. I mean, because we only did one sort of one of each sort of design, really. But the
artworks also are beautiful, and
also the costumes are uniforms as a whole are all for sale. The artwork is for sale. I mean, the catalog and the price list is all very clear in the gallery website. So if people are interested, they can approach the gallery or they can approach me directly, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So I will be, if anyone wants to email me, emma@thezay.org, I can connect you. So in the perfumes, the black dress one, is that produced in Saudi Arabia?
For the Saudi
Arabia. The label or the perfume?
No, the label?
No, the perfume itself. Was I actually don't know if it's produced in Saudi Arabia or not. because
The label is intended for Saudi Arabian market.
Yeah, the Libya was intended from Saudi Arabia, and I think that they were doing it in Saudi, or like because they have this new perfume thing that they have this great design. I think they were, but I think they were bottled in Egypt, not in Saudi.
oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But like they have, I guess they were sending from Saudi to Sudan, but the bottles, the second they were, well, I heard like they were made in Egypt.
Interesting, because you know what? I found Bint al Sudan, the stuff that's made in Nigeria, in London.
Yeah, the Nigerian, the original, and also like there are a lot of fake Bint Sudan here also as well. So not all of them the original ones. I mean, the more original one, like the one that, you know, that's actually the one comes from Nigeria. It has the original, like even the original perfume.
Because the original company that was started by the Englishmen stayed for a while, and then it was sold to another English company, and then it was bought.
It was sold.
And
then
it became, and then it was bought by the factory or the company in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And it's been operating from there for a long time, and it's #1 seller in Africa.
Yeah, actually, because it's also like it's in West Africa, it's there, and that's the 70s. It was really popular. That's why they call it like African China #5, because it was really popular, and in US as well. And that's why they had two factories, one in UK and the other one like they had in Nigeria. But the one in London was closed in the 70s, and the one in Nigeria that was still manufacturing.
And the fascinating thing about Bint al Sudan, it also became okay, it was sort of an oriental kind of perfume, really, if you think about it, you know, because it was created by this Englishman traveler, and he tried to create this like exotic kind of perfume based on what he saw. And he took a picture of this Sudanese princess while she was standing, and that's the original photo. So that also opens up this whole kind of conversation about how, you know, depict the foreign woman to the Western gaze, and that's how it started. But then how it somehow became very popular back in Africa, and then how this perfume also became part of the Black Panther movement. I think feminism in the US at a certain point, it was like, you know, you wanted to it's brilliant.
Yeah, actually there's advertisement at the Ebony magazine. Like the African American magazine, you know, from the 70s, like this, like the fragrance of Africa, you know, and then like Bint Sudan, and then just talk about like the homeland, you know, like the identity, the Bint Sudan. It has kind of like a connection to like a Black identity, you know. So it became more like a symbol.
So it
not
is
just a perfume.
Yeah. So as a popular kind of a culture kind of object of desire, I guess the perfume sort of embodies all of that, and its story is quite long. And it was when was it made? In 1920 when it first came out? Or?
It first came like 1920, yeah.
Yeah, at the same time as Coco Chanel, apparently.
Yeah. Probably.
So it's so there's like two parallel histories here as well, if somebody wants to look at.
I think we will be carrying the conversation behind the scenes, Emma, correct? And
absolutely. I was just going to say it's so fascinating, but I'm very conscious of everyone's time. So I think we should jump to behind the scenes and continue the conversation with our friends of the Zay. But thank you so much for just the most fascinating webinar, and I think bringing so many threads. And I know Ansi, our wonderful content manager, will follow up with you to try and write a blog on some of those key themes, Amado, and actually I think that'll be so interesting. Our next and final webinar for this season before the summer hits is Treatise and Tea, taking place on the 28th of June with Wafa. Dr. Reem, I'm going to ask you to pronounce her surname.
Fadni.
There we go. And of course, the wonderful Dr. Reem. So thank you all so much for being here, and I'll see many of you behind the scenes very shortly.
Yes, I look forward to meeting people if they want to have a one-to-one talk with all of us in behind the scene. And see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Najlaa. Thank you so much, Amado.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.